What Drives You is brought to you by Ziglar, your premier source for equipping life and leadership coaches. Visit Ziglar.com and let them inspire your true coaching performance.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Kevin Miller. This is the What Drives You podcast, where we focus on your drive. Your drive is working in some areas of your life, producing great success, yet in other areas, maybe not so much. Let's get clarity on what you value, what motives are helping and hurting you, and get you fully into alignment so you're driving further and faster and enjoying the ride.
Yeah.
8 hidden habits to live your richest life. At the beginning of my book, What Drives You, I define drive as a strong energy and determination to achieve a goal or satisfy a need. To be rich means to be plentiful and abundant. You could say that sums up our drive. We want to be plentiful and abundant in many things. I've never met anyone who says they want less money, for instance. I've never met anyone who says they want less personal growth or wellness or less good relationships. Or someone who says, I want less purpose or time or less great adventures or experiences. But all of us have areas where we don't feel as plentiful and abundant as we desire. I mean, think about it. Are you okay if in 1 year, nothing in your life changes? Nothing grows and improves. You're good as is. For the next year, the next 3 years, well, I don't think you'd be listening to this show if that was the case. I don't know if I would be doing the show. So yeah, let's be grateful and content today with what we have. Let's be at peace. But part of my purpose is to grow, is to increase, is to multiply my talents, if you will. Well, thus I bring you Robin Sharma. So every month, over 30 million people follow Robin's teachings on social media and elsewhere. He has multiple #1 global bestsellers, such as The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. It was his bestseller book, The 5 a.m. Club, that brought him onto my show 4 years ago. Well, his new book is called The Wealth Money Can't Buy, The 8 Hidden Habits to Live Your Richest Life. So Robin works with, these days, a lot of billionaires and celebrities who have achieved great levels, the greatest levels of monetary wealth and status. Why do they hire him? Well, they want to be happy. Yet, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you may happily trade places with them in essence. But it is an interesting question. I mean, would you really? Would you take $1 million or $1 billion if you had to trade it for riches in other areas? I mean, what good or fun would it be? But there are just as many people, if not more, who achieved those great successes, monetarily and otherwise, because they pursued success and riches elsewhere. Well, who do you want to be? I'd like to be the latter. Well, you can find Robin's new book, The Wealth Money Can't Buy, The 8 Hidden Habits to Live Your Richest Life, anywhere. It just came out as of the publishing of this show. But next, listen in for some simple and profound insights from Robin, the monk who sold his Ferrari. Well, Robin, it's great to be back with you and going through this new book of yours. I really got hit with, this is the kind of thing that I want to write to my kids. Like, okay,
Wow.
Here's the main areas of life. And man, here's the highlights that have impacted me, that I've learned, the good way, the hard way. And even the old book, I don't know if you remember it, Life's Little Instruction Book. That's what it felt like. Like this is wisdom from a sage on the key areas of life. Don't miss this. So thank you.
You're very generous praise coming from you, Kevin. So thank you. And, I put my heart and soul in this book. I spent 12 months of my life on it. Rewrote it probably 20 times. Each version of the manuscript, maybe 10,000 changes. I wanted, it's a lot of work to try to make something simple. And I think it's a lot of work to try to pare something down to the essentials. And that's what I did my best to do.
It's interesting you say that, because I look at now, I've got both of our books are over my shoulders here. And, most books are going to be self-help books, are going to be, 50,000 words, 70,000 words. And understanding the stories are relevant. And yet I read most of them and I think this could have been said a lot a lot simpler. And I do appreciate you hitting some of these highlights, and you gave it a page and a half or a page or 2 pages, and you hit it and it made it simplistic. I think that helps. Sometimes we can, as you know, we can take some of these concepts and make them so complex. I think it's harder for people to embrace, and you did that well.
What I tried to do with this book was set it up like a conversation.
Yeah.
So I wanted, I don't know if I got it right, but the intention was to really make it feel very intimate. Like there are scenes where I'm at the old farmhouse, in my writing room, or on a walk, or visiting whatever the city is. And I just wanted to, in this world where so many people are lonely, so many people are looking for connection, so many people really are looking for the truth. I tried to
Yeah.
strip it down and share this model, the 8 forms of wealth. I know we're going to get in it, but this world has us thinking that success and wealth is purely about money, stock portfolio, and material things. Of course, that's important. And it's one of the forms of wealth. But there are 7 other forms for us to work on each day, for us to develop if we want to find true riches in life.
Yeah. Well, and I know money is one of them, Robin. I kind of want to hit the elephant in the room with this, and where I know people will tend to discount it. So here it is. If they go and read about you online, they're going to find out you've got readers who include, Taylor Swift and Kim Kardashian, Bon Jovi, and celebrities and people in power and billionaires. I mean, that comes across a lot. There's billionaires out there. They hire you to help counsel them in business, but really in life. And so somebody can easily hear that and go, you know what? I'm probably not going to be a billionaire. I'm doing my job. I'm going to take care of my life. Hopefully I have enough to retire. I'm not going to have billions out there. It's easy for those who have that to now look at these other areas of life and treat them, and treat them as somewhat of a luxury. It's great you get to spend time on that. I got to pay the mortgage. Address it from that standpoint here, from the people of decent means who are listening to this show, but they're not billionaires. They may not have millions in the bank. They do have to be concerned about next month's payments or the coming month's payments. And yet, as you know, these issues are as relevant or more, and may even be keeping them from those riches. But I know a lot of people discount some of these messages from that. Oh, yeah, it's easy for those folks to talk about these other areas of life.
There's a lot of billionaires that I've mentored who are actually cash rich and life poor. So the first thing I would say is there are a lot of people with a lot of money and that's all they have.
Yeah.
It makes me think of Jim Carrey said, I wish everyone became rich and famous to realize it doesn't make a difference. He also said, I spent the first 50 years of my life accomplishing some amazing things, having more material things than most people in the world will ever have, only to realize it was all about ego and it really didn't make me feel any happier. So the first thing I would say is there are a lot of very rich people who have poverty of happiness, poverty of relationships, poverty of the soul, poverty of joyfulness. Second thing I'd say is the wealth money can't buy, this book we're talking about, is for any human being who's interested in living their finest lives, living with more joy, living with more prosperity, creativity. It's not at all a book for billionaires. The messages just speak to the truths, I believe, of what every human being is looking for, those 8 forms of wealth. And money is one of the forms of wealth. There's 25 or so chapters in that section on how to make more prosperity. So anyone who's looking for more can learn what I've discovered from working with many of the world's most financially rich people. Having said that, I really do think there's a cultural seduction and a societal hypnosis that has us climbing a mountain of, okay, if I have more money, I'm going to be happy. And that's just not going to bring us happiness. Great to make more money, do wonderful things for your family, have more freedom in some ways. You help people in need. But look at the second form of wealth, wellness, for example. Lose your health, you lose everything. Look at the third form of wealth, for example, family. I mean, what's the point of living in this great mansion but being in there all alone?
Well, Robin, it's acute. I just, as of this recording, 2 months ago, my father passed away. He got, and my listeners know that he got one of those surprise stage 4 cancer diagnosis, and 6 weeks later was gone. And he had so much wealth, and it wasn't financially. With him gone, most of what he had left financially will go to support my mom for the rest of her life. There wasn't much beyond that. I didn't get some inheritance financially. And yet at the end of his days, the amount of people that poured out giving testimonies to how he changed their lives, and the fact that he had my mom, myself, my brother and sister by his bedside for the last 6 weeks of his life, I don't think he could have felt any wealthier. But I think people will be surprised that he did not have some great hoard of wealth. Nothing against that. It would have been fine if he had that as well. But it did make this acute to see how he lived his life, and and I know we're going to get into that, how he serviced other people. And at the end of it, he's kind of like, it's been a good run. It's a good run. I don't have anything else to do. I'm good. Almost to the point of it was almost hard to take initially. And I see you speaking to that. So I saw it acutely. So thanks for pointing to it.
Yeah, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thanks.
I don't know what more I can say, but my parents are in their mid 80s, and
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like to lose a parent. So I'm sorry for your loss, and I wish you and your family all the best during this. Must be a hard time.
Well, it's sobering, and it brings into light. It's one of the reasons that we're sitting here talking about this, because that's what it brought to light, is the value of all these things, really, aside from money. I mean, including money, of course, but aside from those. So, as we go into these, I mean, again, the title of the book, folks, is The Wealth Money Can't Buy, the 8 Hidden Habits to Live Your Richest Life. I happened to see on Instagram today, you had posted within maybe the past week or so, it was a quote from you, and it said, "Consistency truly is one of the surest highways to legendary." As you talk about the 8 hidden habits, man, Robin, I am so continually in I was going to say my older age. I don't like to say that. My hopefully growing wisdom. How's that? That the power of that, the daily deposits, the little habits done consistently, even if we just look at health and wellness, which we're going to get into, and realize, man, there's no way I can maintain my health and wellness by putting in some monster workout on the weekend, go out and kill it for 4 hours, and then not do anything the rest of the week. I'd be much more benefited to do 20 minutes a day of something moderate every single day. And so as we go down through those, I thought that was a great umbrella for all this. These are things that you're showcasing. These are the daily habits of your life that you've lived, that you're living, that you're striving to live, and that you're teaching others. And they add up to these riches. But that stuck out to me. Like the stories you told. So yesterday, like most days, I went and did XYZ. So that consistency feels like one of the primary foundations for this entire conversation. Fair?
It's one of them, and I think consistency really is the key to mastery. Two brain tattoos come to mind. The first is the little things you do daily are so much more important than the grand things you do annually.
Yeah.
Second thing I would say, I've been teaching for 15 plus years. Small daily, seemingly insignificant improvements, when done consistently over time, lead to stunning results. And so you're absolutely right. These micro wins are massively important. We think, we need to have the big workout, or we need to do a big thing. Even if you go to business, what made Apple was those small little acts of evolution done consistently every day versus one revolutionary act. And that's how you build a world-class life, or a happy life, or a healthy life, or a spiritually strong life, or a creative life. It's those little acts of consistency, and remembering that your days are your life in miniature. Your days are your life in miniature. As you craft each day, the little things you do every day, so you handcraft your life.
Isn't that also what makes it so difficult, though, as you talk about that, those little deposits every day, we just don't see results that day. We want that massive thing. We want to win the lottery and everything changes overnight. Or, you see the movie of somebody going to Vegas and they win up $100,000, changes their life. I've never seen that happen in real life, but apparently somebody did, and they make movies about it. But we want that, as opposed to, it's not sexy to look at, save 10% every day. It's just not sexy. We don't see some great windfall. And, back to health and wellness and taking our morning smoothie with good stuff in it, or our supplements. I mean, the rate of people who continue to take nutritional supplements, I heard from a supplement rep. He said after about 4 or 5 months is about 6%. That's the rate of people who continue taking them. They're expensive, and you just, for the most part, don't see immediate results. That's what hits me when we look at these. These are all little things that aren't going to create some huge result immediately. It's over time. So that's going to take, where would you put that in the bucket of faith?
Well, hard is easy and easy is hard. You make small, difficult choices every single day. Could be joining the 5 a.m. club. Could be doing the sweaty workout first thing in the morning. Could be putting down your phone in the evening and reading versus scrolling. Could be at work. You over-deliver and under-promise. Doing the hard things every day, little hard things, gives you an easy life. But our society, our culture is very much do easy things. Consume the easy content, have the easy conversations, put your hand up for the easy work project, do the easy workout, read the easy books, even if you do read a book. That leads to a hard life. Also, if you look at I love art, and if you look at the great masterpieces, could be The Birth of Venus by Botticelli, it could be Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, it could be the Mona Lisa. Could be the Sistine Chapel ceiling in Vatican City by Michelangelo. All great masterworks have one thing in common: patience. So the great masters have patience. Even a relationship master. How do you build a great friendship? Patience. How do you build a great love story? Patience. How do you write a great book? Patience. How do you build a top business? Patience. So I think these virtues are important. And the last thing I might say on this is, to have the results only 5% of the population has, we've got to be willing to do what 95% of the people aren't willing to do.
Yeah.
Now, why would you do it? It sounds so hard. I think the payoffs are enormous. Like, when you do consistently do difficult things, it creates this gift, this wealth money can't buy, which is, this, Kevin, it's self-respect. May I even say it's self-love. We start to respect ourselves when we do difficult things. We feel our time on the planet is well used. We feel we're building intimacy with our gifts and our talents. That makes us heroic. And actually, doing difficult things over time becomes fun. It actually becomes fun doing. I'm not saying I'm any kind of a guru. I'm not saying I'm special. I want to be very clear. But these days, I wrote a book on the 5 a.m. club. We interviewed on that together. But these days I get up at 4 a.m. Now I go to bed even earlier. But people say, why would you get up at 4 a.m.? And I meditate, I visualize, I pray. I call it MVP in my methodology. I do it because it makes me feel so incredibly great during the day. So I just want to say, these ideas that I share in the book and that we're chatting about, they not only give you incredible traction around your ethical ambitions, they fill you with joy, self-respect, so much energy, so much inspiration.
What you just said there reminds me, I'm continually brought back to, we're creatures of appetite. And we're going to fill our appetites. We're going to feed our appetites today. I see in this self-help arena, self-improvement arena, I feel like we get this perspective of we're supposed to just kill our appetites and do everything that's hard. I think now I'm still feeding like you just talked about it. you're feeding an appetite. Maybe in the past, and I'm making this up. Let's say in the past, your appetite was to sleep in till 12 and wake up and have a donut and binge watch Netflix. And you fed an appetite. You've changed that now. And at 4 a.m., you have an appetite to wake up and meditate and visualize and pray. And you've changed your appetite. You're still feeding it and you're actually finding, I have as much joy. It's like that dopamine hit. I've got it there. I've changed that dopamine hit to this. Other than that, yeah, we're still feeding our appetites. To me, that feels hopeful because the thought of killing my appetites, it's never going to happen. I love my appetites. I love feeding my appetites. I do want to elevate them though. And I feel like that's, again, a lot of what your book's talking about. Here's a way in this arena that is an appetite, is a way to feed that appetite. You are going to benefit. And I think that you make the case, it's hard to refute. Here's the results. And you've got your life, the lives of so many other successful people that you're showcasing. This is what it results in. That's something worth having faith in for me.
You look at yes, I agree. If you look at the first form of wealth, growth, people might say, well, why is growth a form of wealth? If you are, I know you're very much into personal development. If you are in hot pursuit of knowing your gifts and your talents, if you are meditating or journaling or working out or reading or what I say in the book, recruiting a dead board of directors so you have these advisors around you through their books guiding you. I mean, that makes you a rich person. You can have a lot of money, but if you're building authenticity, if you're starting to know how strong you are, if you're building knowledge, wisdom, fearlessness, love, if you're building those things in a world where people are addicted to white screens, watching influencers wearing mud masks, you have a form of wealth. It makes you a very powerful person. And so personal growth is incredibly valuable, incredibly important. I'd also say that your primary relationship with yourself determines your relationship with your family, your friends, your money, your creativity, your coworkers, your neighbors. So that's why I made the first out of the 8 forms of wealth growth. Because as you rise in your self-identity and your true power, you recreate your world.
I appreciate you started that segment off and you said something to the effect of, some people have baggage around self-improvement. And does that stuff really work? Which I literally had a son. So I had a son. He was a senior in high school a couple years ago. And one of his teachers found my show, found my podcast, listened to it, and told my son, so your dad's into that self-improvement stuff. Do you think that really works? And I kind of thought, well, what else is there? What if it's not self-improvement? Well, one, am I just good with, I'm not going to improve, man. I'm good. I'm set. I'm done for life. I don't think anybody would say that. And yet if it's not self-improvement, what is it? Who am I relying on? I wonder if we get it framed wrong around some people having the perspective of self-improvements because I'm not good enough. Do you find that there's some aspects people have gotten soured on it for some reason, and it comes from where you and I would see it as, oh my gosh, this is hope. This is opportunity. This is purpose and to grow, that some people have gotten hit with it from a different perspective. And they feel like, oh, I've got to do that because I'm not good enough. And that could bring them going towards it with a feeling of guilt. And I want to have compassion for that, but try to flip the script.
All change is hard at first, messy in the middle, gorgeous at the end. What I mean by that is many people, I think we have a human instinct. You talk about appetites. I think one of the greatest of all appetites is the hunger to grow.
I do too.
Maslow had Abraham Maslow, the eminent psychologist, had this hierarchy of needs. And he said, okay, at a base level, we have the need to fill our bellies, let's say. And then we have a human need to put food over our head, shelter and safety. And then we have a need for this. And at the very top of the pyramid of human needs was self-actualization. So I hear you and I agree with you. We have a deep primal instinct to become who we truly are. That's like one of the greatest wealths money can't buy. Why don't many people do it? Well, I'd actually say in this world right now, I've never seen self-help go so mainstream. I started out 31 years ago with a book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. At that time, a lot of the titans loved self-help, but they keep the book hidden in their bedside desk's drawer. Now, if you walk into any bookstores you know so well or look online, bestsellers are mostly self-help books. I'm very encouraged how self-help has gone mainstream. I think Instagram is a self-help platform in many ways if you look at the content. But why do some people roll their eyes at, or that teacher you mentioned, self-help, schmelf help? It's because all change is hard at first, messy in the middle, gorgeous at the end. People get really scared of growth. And I think that's what defines a victim in many ways. They're so scared of a new idea that they cling to the safe harbor of the known. But what I would also say is the discomfort of growth is always less dangerous than the illusion of safety. The discomfort of growth, the scariness of learning a new idea, letting go of who you were yesterday in hot pursuit of who you can be tomorrow. The discomfort of growth is always less dangerous than the illusion of safety. Because if you stick to the same conversations, you never change, you never grow, you get to the end of a quarter, end of a year, end of a decade, end of a lifetime, and you really experience heartbreak, which is, I didn't get in the game. I didn't get to know my true power. I didn't do amazing things.
You bringing up Maslow's hierarchy. So that was brought up to me a few months back by another guest, Dr. Jordan Grummett. And it got me focusing on it again. Most people have heard about that. You just talked about that. We start at the bottom with taking care of ourselves. And then at the top is self-actualization. It just hit me at the right time, Robin. And I got to thinking about my kids. And I've got older kids who are already out of the house, but I've got kids who are, just at the point of leaving home and going out. And I thought, I want to flip it. These guys know how to take care of themselves. I've been having them do the farmer's market for years. They know business and profit and loss and how to make a buck and how to win friends and influence people. At this point, they're going to go out there and they're going to be fine. Right now, as I was talking to my 18-year-old, thinking, dude, let's just flip it. Let's just focus you totally on self-actualization. You figure that out. I think the rest will figure itself out. And I worry that we as a culture, we look at that as that's something that we graduate toward if we can. Again, back to the thing of that's the luxury. Self-actualization, that's at the top. That's after we've taken care of this. And if we never take care of the bottom stuff and we're living hand to mouth and we're just taking care of life and surviving, we're never going to get there. It does. It questions. You've got kids. I question, is that my sole goal, is to get them to get out there, go to college, get a job? Or can I flip it? Let's get them self-actualized and the rest will figure itself out. Is that too simplistic?
Well, I would say that our income and our impact is determined by our self-identity. I mean, we live in a world of incredible, if we're talking about entrepreneurship and business, we live in a world where you can change the world and start a multi-billion-dollar business with an iPhone.
Yeah.
There's nothing but possibility here. But if you have, one of the chapters is solve your scarcity scars. If you have these programs, let's say from the early cues of your parents, or the acronym I teach in the book, the Penham Principle, these 5 forces that shape us in terms of the way we see the world. I mean, a key idea that changed my life is we see the world not as it is, we see the world as we are.
Yeah.
And so when you solve your scarcity scars, when you start saying, you know what, it's me seeing the worst in people or seeing a lack of opportunity, or I'm really scared of growth, and we start to reprogram our mindsets and we start to work through the emotional hurts that have caused us to contract and play small. When we start reading the biographies of the great women and men of the world, when we learn to meditate, visualize, and pray, which science is showing is so powerful to activate neuroplasticity so we think in different ways. One of the things I talk about in the seventh form of wealth, the seventh form of wealth in the book, which is stripping out the energy vampires and the dream stealers from your life. So you populate your social circle with people whose lives you want to be living. When you do these kinds of things, you start to see the world in a different way. You use the word worthiness. You start to see yourself. I think a lot of people in business and a lot of people in life don't ask for what they want, and they have low standards because they have what I call an undeservability issue. And they blame it on the world. Oh, I can't find true love. Oh, I'm too busy to work out. Oh, I'm not the kind of person who can build a successful business. But deep inside, their secret fear is they don't deserve it. And so when you heal these things and when you fill the holes that are keeping us small, you then go out in the world and you get traction on the business, or you ask for the big order, or you ask for love, or you wouldn't dare put something bad in your body because you respect your physical dimension so much. So much of what we do is sabotage because we have these holes and these wounds and these programs where we don't like ourselves very much. And as you do the personal growth, and I want to be clear, growth is only the first form of wealth in the wealth money can't buy. There's 7 other forms of wealth that are massively important to live your richest life. But personal growth is a foundation for a great life.
I know it's hard to take some of these things and say, what is more important? I do sometimes question, okay, maybe it's not more important, but sequentially, it feels right to put it there. If you don't have that, we built our house, and the first thing that went down was a 2,400 foot slab of concrete. Nobody ever talks about the foundation. It's not cool. Nobody ever comes down and goes, oh my gosh, that's the coolest foundation. Nobody talks. All they talk about is what we built on top of it. The rooms and the design and the architecture and the home is on top. And yet I look at it and go, okay, I don't know if I can make the case that it's more important, but it's just sequentially, it's got to go first. I do tend to come there with personal growth, with taking responsibility for ourselves. It feels sequentially relevant that you put that first. We got to start somewhere. So where do you start? It feels like the starting place. Fair?
Well, fair. Victims are all about CBE. In this world we live in right now, I believe I'm not judging, I'm just reporting. I believe there's a lot of people playing victim. Here's how I'd say it. There's a lot of people who want a world-class life without doing the things world-class requires. They want the beautiful house, or they want the beautiful health, or they want the beautiful family, or they want the beautiful reputation, or they want the beautiful business, or they want the beautiful lifestyle. And I think some people think it just grows on trees. So personal growth is out of the 8 forms of wealth in the book, I think it's a great point. Like, is one of them to be weighted more than the others? I think all 8 are incredibly important. If I was to pick a few that are maybe more important, I mean, just for your viewers and listeners, the 8 forms of wealth really quickly: growth, wellness, family, craft, money. Money is one of the forms of wealth. 6 is community. 7 is adventure, and 8 is service. If you asked me to pick, okay, out of those 8 forms of wealth, which redefines what success is in many ways, what would be the most important? I would agree with you. Personal growth, incredible foundation. I'd also say family. I know you're very familiar with Zig Ziglar's work.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to talk a lot about family. And I think he called it the home foundation, but he talked about a foundation.
Home court advantage.
Home court advantage. And I
Yeah.
smile because I shared this with you when we first spoke. But I met Zig Ziglar at one of those big Peter Lowe
Peter
events
Lowe. Yeah.
when I was just starting out. Man, he was prime the
Yeah,
pump,
baby.
and so I just smile when I think about Zig Ziglar. But I do believe the third form of wealth is incredibly important because I know a lot of entrepreneurs follow you, but when your home life is in great shape, you're freed up in many ways to be creative at work, to be productive. There's no ambient noise. You're freed up with energy. You're inspired. You're focused. If you have a lot of drama going on in your family, and I think your listeners and viewers will perhaps agree with me. If you are dealing with drama at home, you're not present at work. You've just got this incredible weight on you. And then maybe the eighth form of wealth might be another one of the more important. I think they're all incredibly important, but the eighth form of wealth, which is service, and I believe this will speak to you. Mahatma Gandhi said it very well. He said, to lose yourself in service of others is to find yourself. And the founder of Rotary, this was quoted by Ted Turner, one of the great entrepreneurs of our time. He quoted the founder of Rotary, Paul Harris, and he said, the one who serves the best profits the most. The one who serves the best profits the most. And I think whether you're in business or a neighbor or mother or father, but if you are going through your days with a heart full of service, caring about the room cleaner if you're in a hotel, or the taxi driver, or your neighbor, or every one of your brothers and sisters on the planet, and you're trying to be the most helpful person in every room that you're in, you have a form of riches and a
Yeah.
form of wealth that you just can't put a price tag on.
We had Lynn Twist on the show. Her renowned humanitarian. Her latest book is Living a Committed Life, and that was really her focus. So, I mean, you find something that you commit to, that you find purpose in, serving other people, and a lot of life will fall into place, as we're talking about. So, I appreciate that. Here's a question. Overall, so along with my dad's passing, a lot of his deep influences came out. One of them was right here, Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill. This is a 1944 copy. The thing was first published in 1937. This is an old one. And I came back into reading it and listening to Earl Nightingale's The Strangest Secret and going back to some of these classics. And one of the things, I just trust it, as that's what was meant for me to hear as I'm reading through Napoleon Hill's stuff. And he so often comes back to saying it's not about working harder. It's not about working harder. It's about definiteness of purpose, knowing what you want, which you attested to a minute ago. So to go back to that, you wake up at 4 a.m. It's interesting to me that you don't wake up at 4 a.m. and boom, you hit it. Laptop's open, you are writing. You're going to get in 2,000 words before whatever time, and then you're going to be answering emails, and you're doing it because you're going to hustle to pick on that word. You're going to hustle, and you're going to make things happen, and you're going to put in a 20-hour day and get 4 hours sleep and get back at get it again. And that's what makes a billionaire. I don't hear you saying that. That's not what your book is about. What's interesting is you get up and you meditate. You visualize and you pray. So go to visualize, especially. What is that? Well, that would be, I would equate that to Napoleon Hill's definiteness of purpose. What is it that you want? What are you putting your day? And I would guess that today you find far more success with yourself, with your clients. You see it out there with maybe even less work than what they were doing in the past, but would you say wiser work?
That's a very good way to put it. I would reply with a few things. Most productive people are minimalists versus maximalists. And you mentioned how I start my day with MVP. We know MVP stands for most valuable player. In my work, it's meditation, visualization, and prayer. And someone might be listening and say, well, why don't you, to use your words, get at it? Makes me think again of Mahatma Gandhi. And I love this line. I don't know if it's going to resonate with you, Kevin, but he said, I have a lot to accomplish today. Therefore, I must meditate 2 hours rather than 1.
Yeah, that's couldn't be more countercultural right there.
Countercultural, and then the Abe Lincoln quote, right? Sharpen the saw. Abe Lincoln, right? Sharpen the saw. If I had to chop down a tree, I'd spend 7 hours or whatever the quote is, sharpening the saw, and 30 minutes or an hour cutting down the tree. Second thing I'd reply, I'm not a subscriber, and I never have been, of the hustle and grind culture. I believe rest is not a luxury, rest is a necessity. In the 5am Club book, I have the twin cycles of elite performance. High excellence cycle, deep recovery cycle. The most productive people, and to give credit where it's due, the Energy Project has done some great research on this. The most productive people are much more like sprinters than marathoners. They work in sprints. I have a concept that I teach called the 5 great hour rule. Most of us, many people in the hustle and grind culture, it's like, okay, I'm going to put, as you said, 16 hours, 18 hours a day to get ahead. That does not work. That kind of working comes from the factory era, when more time on the factory line produced more output. We don't live in that world anymore. So the 5 great hour rule is work only 5 hours a day. If you're an entrepreneur, it's much easier. And when you work those 5 hours, make them monomaniacally focused on real work versus fake work. A lot of us put in 10 hours, but half of that time we're doing fake work. We're checking our phones. We're distracted.
Yeah.
We're not in flow state. So that is wiser work. I would also say, and you hinted at this, clarity breeds mastery, and vague plans create vague goals. The more clear we can be in our mission, personally, professionally, productively, spiritually, the more we can strip out the complexity and focus what's most important. And the last thing I would say is a lot of people suffer from broken focus syndrome, and they've never met an opportunity or shiny toy that they didn't like. There's an entrepreneur I think of, every time I meet him, he's got a new business he's launching. Every time. But how do you make the Taj Mahal? How do you make Apple? How do you make a masterwork? You focus on one Mount Everest and then you stay, not 50. We live in a world that's like almost like fear of missing out, right?
Yeah.
Putting out so many videos, so much content, so many books. Pick one masterwork, professionally speaking, and stay with that one thing over and over until you get that job done. Even in the Wealth Money Can't Buy, there's a chapter 3 great, practice the 3 great friends rule. We live in a world where so many people are striving for 1,000 digital friends. You can find 3 great friends. That's the kind of friend who would bail you out if you got into trouble at 3 a.m. in a foreign country. You are a rich person indeed.
That reminds me, you're picking one thing. We've got the old book that I value a lot, Multiple Streams of Income. And yet I see so many people go about, I have as well, own it. I've gone about that poorly, and I've got too many irons in the fire. And if I'm going to have multiple streams of income, they need to be under the same umbrella of overlapping things. Otherwise, I can't keep on it. You talking about that. Yeah. Back to the hustle culture. As I have realized, my greatest work, my primary job is creative. I'm a creative. I create content. I don't know, Robin, I don't know that I've got more than 3 hours a day of doing that in me. Maybe not even that much of true creativity, of really making something of value. That's about all I've got. And sometimes I'll find myself there going, I can't, my brain, I've done my work for the day. And if I'm going to do anything more, yes, it's going to be churning out, check emails and take care of busy work, but I don't have anything of value left. I've got a finite amount every day. So to think of that about putting in these long days, I feel like, man, what am I doing? I'm just pushing things around and not getting anything of value done. And I revere the people that work smart, put in a little bit of time and get great results. And yet again, it's countercultural, as is so much of your book.
when it comes to creativity, the creative arts,
Yeah.
I personally find that after 5 hours, let's say working on a book, working on this book, if I put in 4 pristine hours where I went into flow state in what I call my tight bubble of total focus, whether it was a hotel room or my writing room at home, I was spent. I was
Yeah.
spent. You don't even feel like reading in the evening. You just want to watch a film because cognitively, we could go to the science. It's called your cognitive bandwidth.
Yeah.
You're just empty. One of the chapters in the fourth form of wealth, which is craft, to see your job as a craft and to pursue mastery in your work as a form of wealth. It's a form of riches that I think a lot of us do neglect. But one of the chapters is bring a security guard to work. And what I mean by that is I read about Neil Strauss, who's a writer, and he literally hired a security guard to stand outside of his door of his apartment. And he said, "Do not leave until I finish this book." And I shared that chapter because we live in a world right now where an addiction to distraction is the death of our creative production. We live in a world right now where a lot of us really are spending the best hours of our greatest days playing with digital attractions that won't make a difference. There's also a chapter called Find Your Personal Goldeneye, which might be relevant to you, Kevin. So Ian Fleming, the writer of the James Bond books, he realized, I believe genius loves solitude. And I believe you can be in the world all the time or do your best work. You can't do both. Great masters love isolation. They're alone a lot. And so he actually bought a retreat. He called it Goldeneye in Jamaica. And he was so monomaniacally focused with blocking out distractions so he could get beautiful work done that he told his gardeners, "Do not walk across my view where I can see the Atlantic Ocean when I'm in writing."
Yeah.
And so that
Yeah.
chapter is find your personal golden eye. Now, speaking to your point earlier, you said, "Robin, what if we can't buy this compound by the sea?" I'd say rent a motel room in your own city. Rent a motel room in your own city to get your project X done, or this great project done, or that book done, or that big sales presentation done. I mean, what a concept. You rent a motel room because you never get your best work done in an office. Or if you don't want to rent a motel room, go to your public library. There's always a place where you can retreat to from the world in a public library. But I think
Yeah.
it's incredibly important. There's even a tool I talk about in the book called the 2-phone protocol. Have your loaded phone with all your apps, the weather, food ordering, social media. Have a secondary phone that has nothing on it except SMS or phone calls for emergencies. Keep that phone with you when you're working so you get real work done.
It's interesting that you talk about that. I have a home up here in the Rocky Mountains, 9,300 feet above sea level, in a national forest, down in a valley, can't see any neighbors, couldn't be more secluded, couldn't be more quiet. And yet, when I really want to go down the rabbit hole, I will often leave and go to a friend's cabin or a hotel or somewhere because sitting at home, it's still home and God love it, but I still have that nagging thought of, man, there's that thing I've been wanting to fix. Or there's that, or yeah, or a kid does, or even the thought that maybe somebody will come home. And it's that little bit of distraction of how much it takes to really go down and how much I got to invest to hit that creative spot. Well, on that, I want to hit your next one is wellness, Robin, because I've had a recent personal experience that opened up my eyes and gave me a lot of compassion and more conviction for the value of wellness. So I have been privileged. I was a pro athlete. I've always been fit. I've always been well. I don't get sick that much and on and on and on. And it's been right at 6 months now, 6 months ago, I had the biggest wreck. You'll appreciate this as a mountain biker, which I know you are. And I've done that at the elite level, and I still do. I enter elite races. And after all this time, I had the biggest wreck of my life. We were in Taos on a legendary trail. I was with a group of guys, and I've never, ever lost it like I did. And I've never hit as hard as I did. I broke 7 bones, partially collapsed the lung, and it took me out. Couldn't put my clothes on. Had to have my kids help me put my pants on, my family. And I experienced what a lot of people experience, being incapacitated. And then from that point on, chronic pain for a long time. I'm just now getting over it 6 months later, chronic pain. What that did, talk about creativity, to my overall motivation and creativity, because it just gave me great compassion for people who deal with health, and gave me further conviction of, oh my gosh, is there anything I want to guard more than that? Because I even got into thinking about spirituality, which I would tend to put at the top of the list. And yet I thought, man, if I am not well, if I'm in pain, I don't really have an opening for anything. I can't take in and benefit from anything. So I don't want to say that with put more weight on people dealing with chronic pain, but to put the weight on all of us to be anything that we can do to bolster our health and wellness. What a wellspring of life, and to not have that makes everything else so much harder. So for you putting this in there, you said to steadily optimize your health habit. And I thought it optimizes everything. It optimizes everything, which I know is why you put that in, and you hit some big keys here. And I think, again, you do a great job of simplifying things, but I still think we're missing it. We still don't understand the gravity. Do you?
Yes, there's a great tendency to work out when we have time versus start the day with a workout, because it does lift up everything else. So that is to give context to your many viewers and listeners. Wellness is the second of the 8 forms of wealth in the book. Some primary principles that are hopefully helpful. I was giving a live event in Qatar a number of years ago, and someone handed me a piece of paper and said, please read this in your hotel room tonight, which I did. And on it, it said, health is the crown on the well person's head that only the ill person can see.
Wow.
In one
Wow.
wisdom tradition, they say, when we are young, we'd sacrifice our health for wealth. And when we get old and figure out what life is all about, we'd sacrifice all of our wealth for one day of good health. And so I completely agree with you. We take our health for granted until we lose it. And should we lose it, we spend nothing else matters. Nothing else matters but getting our health back. So there's about 20 chapters in there, which include take a bath in a forest, which talks about the Japanese idea of forest bathing, Shinrin Yoku, which is so incredibly powerful. And to talk about some of the science and the benefits that come from a nature walk every day, or just going to a park and doing some stretches. It's incredibly powerful. There's a chapter in that wellness section, practice the naked sunbathing rule, which really just speaks to the value of some sunshine every day in moderation for vitamin D and all the health benefits. There's a chapter in there called OMAD. Go OMAD. 1 meal a day, once a week. And I did a post on Instagram recently, and some people, I guess I confused people. What I mean by that is 1 day a week, just have 1 meal. And the money you've saved, give that to someone in need. And why would you only do 1 meal a day once a week? And I'm not giving any medical advice. I'm sharing what works for me, but intermittent fasting and caloric restriction science is confirming it's a great way to extend your life. And there's an incredible term I'd love everyone to read about called autophagy. 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 Autophagy, which is activated when you are fasting, where your cells actually clean out debris. So going OMAD once a week, one meal a day once a week is very powerful. So in that second form of wealth, there's a lot of chapters on things we could do to become healthier, to have more energy, to feel better in our bodies, and to live longer. And the DNA of legendary is longevity. You want to outlast your peers. You want to be 80. You want to be like Zig Ziglar, on a stage at a ripe old age.
Yeah.
You want to be 100. You want to be 100 years old, healthy, being with your family, adventuring, pursuing your craft, changing the world.
That aspect there, and I'm more and more brought to longevity, and I want my health span to equal my lifespan, which Zig did well. My dad did well. They were going strong until the end, and then the end was fairly quick. Man, I want that. I don't want to linger at the end. That may be one of the more compelling things for my own health and wellness. One thing that you said, though, a minute ago, it was acute to me. What a gift that I had this injury to a degree, because I experienced it from going from top raging on a mountain bike trail on a mountain with a bunch of guys to all of a sudden I can't move. And so it was acute to me. And I see the culture, it feels like suffering from, the old adage, the old story of put a frog in the water, turn the heat up, and it slowly boils and it'll just sit there. It won't get out. If you put it in when it was boiling, it'd jump, but you put it in there, and that's what we're doing with our health, though. And we don't realize it, and we just let it go. And every day we get a little more used to a little less, and we don't even realize it. That feels like the biggest kicker in this is we let it come on so slowly. And then there's a day and we don't realize it, and years later, and we can't touch our toes. We can't get off the ground without a lot of effort, if at all. We can't do those things. And it's the kind of like the old concept of, all the earthquakes and tsunamis get all the attention, but termites do more damage. We just don't see them, and they're kind of slow. Is that what you see? Is that what you feel like? And again, you work with successful people. And I'm sure there's a lot of them, though, that have let that go by. And so here they have with all this and all this and all this, but little by little, now they don't have the health to enjoy it.
Well, I have, so it's been 15 plus years mentoring celebrity billionaires, CEOs, professional sports stars, entertainment royalty. And on the financial titans, I'd have to say some are extremely fit and some are not. I have personally seen many celebrity billionaires lose their health while they build their fortunes.
Yeah.
And nothing else matters but to get their health back. I would say another key point is it's easier to maintain excellent health. It's easier to maintain excellent health than have to transform and start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So maintaining great health. I would also suggest that there's a term I use called the game-changing move. The game-changing move. And I like looking for game-changing moves. There's a chapter in The Wealth Money Can't Buy called Go Ghost for a Year. Mm-hmm. Take 1 year. Go to Bali. Go to Vietnam. Go to live in Paris with your family. Or go, take 1 year where you go off to the place Tokyo, read the classics, learn to meditate, take long walks, and then return to the world born anew. And if you can't do 1 year, do 6 months. If you can't do 6 months, do 3 months. If you can't do 3 months, do it for 1 month. That's a game-changing move. I believe it'll change the trajectory of your life. But one definite game-changing move is to get into the fittest condition you've ever been in. And people say, well, how do I do it? One of the best ways is you hire a trainer. People will then say, well, it costs a lot of money. I would say death costs you more. Yeah. And by hiring a trainer, and it sounds so simple, but I really want to speak so clearly on this point. Hiring the best trainer in your city is one of the greatest investments you will ever make. Because by hiring a trainer, even for just 2 times a week, Kevin, you will build what I call forced optimization. person, that woman or man, will be waiting for you in the gym or outside your front door 2 or 3 times a week, ideally at 5 a.m. And you can find someone who do it at 5 a.m. And so not only do you join the 5 a.m. club, but 3 times a week you work out. And so, yes, it'll cost you however many thousands of dollars. I acknowledge that. The return on joy, creativity, productivity, happiness with your family, like what being really fit does for you professionally, you can't put a price tag on it. But if
Yeah.
you don't, so I'm passionate about peak health. That's why it's the second of the 8 forms of wealth. But working out first thing in the morning releases a pharmacy of mastery. It releases dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. It transforms the way that your day is. Even stress, things that would ordinarily bother you. I don't know if you'd agree, but when I've worked out, it's like 80% less bothersome.
Yeah.
Getting good rest, supplementing, a little bit of sunlight and sunbathing, being out in nature every day, eating as cleanly as possible, taking Epsom salt baths, getting a massage as much as you can, even if you have your partner massage you. I'm not talking about your business partner. I'm talking about your
Sure.
partner at home. But
Yeah.
I just think getting really fit is a game-changing move.
Well, I love your input on coaching, and I want people to hear that and give some grace to that. I don't need a health and fitness coach. That is an area where I am so motivated. I have so much joy and I have so much privilege in being brought up to that. However, I need to spend my money on areas where I am not as interested. And I've had so many people on the show who said, I hate health and or I hate exercising, is what they'll say. Successful people in the books behind me. I hate it, but I know the value, so I hired a trainer. So I have to show up, or they show up at my house, whatever. Well, I need that on the financial side. I need help there. That's where I hire a trainer to keep me on track there. I hire it in my business to keep me focused and I don't follow the next shiny object and then say, oh, come back, Kevin, come back. And we all need it in our areas where we need it. So that one on health and wellness, I totally agree. Your next one here is family. Reading some of the highlights, it just struck me, Robin, and thought, here we are with family and call it relationships. And we go into that. I don't know many people who went into relationships with any ill intent. They went in with big ideals, just like me. Lots of love, lots of caring, and yet no training whatsoever in how to do relationships well, especially those ones closest to them. And I'm saying that again. I thought I did. I thought I did. And then to realize I was so unaware. Actually, let me start off here. Years ago, when you were on my show, we did 2 segments of shows, and the second one was habits. And I asked you, Robin, and I said, all right, tell me about relationships. Tell me what your primary habits for, wellness and relationships are. And you're the first person, and you said, well, my first focus and priority is my relationship with myself. I've given you credit. I'll send you a check or an invoice. I'm sorry. I've given you so much credit for that statement. It's been said some since then, but you were the first one that said that. It brought it back to relationship with self. So back to what I said, I didn't have a training or even awareness of a relationship with myself when I went into relationships with a lot of intent and a lot of heart. I didn't know how to have a relationship with myself. And then as years went on, I realized I'm missing a lot in relationship with others. And so hitting this, you do a good job of going over how to train ourselves, how to learn, how to improve back to personal growth in the relationship with ourselves that we can then give to others. But again, I keep coming back to countercultural, which anything of wisdom is, that you hit this from. That is not how we are trained to do. Relationships are out there. We go out, we try to do them, and we haven't fixed ourselves, and we don't know how to do them. So again, what you've put in here, it's significant. It just brought me back to square one with it. Thank you.
I've jotted down a few replies to be responsive to what you're saying. The first thing I would say is you're absolutely right. We go to school, we learn math, we learn
Yeah.
language, we learn geography. We're not taught one of the most fundamental things. First of all, how to communicate. And secondly, how to do a relationship, whether it's personal
Yeah.
or business or neighborly. So some ideas that I offer. Number one, it's an old idea. Heal what hurt you so you don't bleed on people who didn't cut you.
Wow. That's worth saying. Say it again.
Heal what hurt you so you don't bleed on people who didn't cut you. And I think you know exactly what I mean. We all go into
Unfortunately, I do.
well, we all do. We all go
Yeah.
into a relationship. We're talking about personal relationships now with the hurts of the past. We all experience micro and macro trauma, and we bring that into the relationship. And if we're not conscious, if we're not doing our personal growth, we bring all of that, call it baggage. That kind of sounds negative, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And psychologists call it projection.
Yeah.
And so someone says something to us, which is a trigger word for maybe what our mother or father said to us as kids. And we are activated and we have an overreaction, which tells you the size of the reaction tells you the depth of the hurt. So when it's an overreaction, and Kevin, you go, what just happened there? All I was asking was for you to pass the milk. And well, no, I shouldn't use your name, but it's a scenario. Pass the milk. Oh, don't tell me what to do. Well, that kind of thing is often a historical reaction. So the first point is heal what hurt you so you don't bleed on people who didn't cut you. Second thing, this is, I mentioned it in the book, it's a big one for relationships. A red flag is a red flag, and you lose the best years of your life hoping it's green. So when you see red flags early on, a red flag is a red flag, and all you're praying and hoping that the person will grow and change or be different is denial. Third thing I would say, in that chapter of The Wealth Money Can't Buy, there's a chapter called Practice the 10,000 Dinners Rule. So that comes from Ayesha.
It's great. I read that and that stood out. Yes. Keep going.
Well, that's Ayesha Vardag. She's a UK divorce lawyer, worked with footballers and movie stars. And she was interviewed by the Financial Times, and they said, look, you've seen so many relationships in bad shape as a divorce lawyer. Could you tell us your advice for great relationships? Number one, she said, separate bedrooms. Number two, she said 10,000 dinners. And the interviewer said, 10,000 dinners? What are you talking about? She said, well, looks fade, lust can dissolve. But if you can see yourself having 10,000 dinners with someone, that's a special love story. Keep that person close. So I think 10,000 dinners. And then another chapter in the book is Live the Loved One's Eyeball Law. And that comes from James Carville. You've probably heard of James Carville, one of the most prominent American political strategists. And his wife, he was with the Democrats, and his wife is one of the pundits for the Republican Party. And they've got, from what I can tell, and a great love story. So he was asked, how do you do it? And I love this idea. He said, if something's important to her, it's important. I make it important to me, which I think is a great relationship idea.
Well, there's more on that, but it's going to come up in one of your next ones. So I'm going to go down and get to it because I want to come to something else. Your next one is craft. Number 4, craft, looking at our work. And you title it The Work as a Platform for Purpose Habit. I'm going to bring up my dad again, Robin. He wrote the book, 48 Days to the Work You Love. Sold a couple million copies and got him pretty well known because of that. I never knew anything else. Doing work that you loved. Now, love. Does that mean you love? I don't attest, and I'd be interested in your thoughts. I don't attest to the statement, can't remember who said it, famous person, that find the work you love and it'll be play for the rest of your life, something like that. Maybe the work that matters to me most is often hard. It's challenging. It's difficult. I don't find it as play. Play is mountain biking. That is nothing but play for me. And so some of my best work is not necessarily play, but it's fulfilling. It has meaning. It has purpose. And in today's day and age, with the opportunities that we have, it is hard for me to feel like anyone can weather putting the majority of their day into a task that does not have meaning beyond the proverbial paycheck. And you go down, and I feel like you say that in so many ways, that if there is not some form of meaning, we're missing one of the greatest riches of our lives. I feel like I want to say, don't we know this? But we don't. It seems just as prevalent. It seems, I don't know. What do you think? It feels just as prevalent as ever that people kind of expect work to suck.
Joseph Campbell had a theory, and he called it the stained glass window, which is basically we have a perceptual filter through which we see the world. There's a filter between us and reality. Let's call it the truth. There's a filter. And this perceptual filter, this stained glass window, is made up of the programming we receive from our parents and our environment and the country we live in and our friends and the media. What I'm suggesting is that a lot of us in the world right now see a job as just a job versus a chance to pursue a craft. But you walk into a coffee shop, sometimes you'll find 10 people working there, and one of them has a sparkle in their eye.
Yeah.
I was in London recently. I got into a black cab. As I walked towards it from the hotel, I saw the tires were shining. The tires were shining. And the cabbie was outside polishing it. As I walked inside, the seats were pristine. The carpet was perfect. As we drove to the airport, I said, I didn't use these words, but it's like deconstruct your approach. And he told me, he said, this is an important job to me. This is how I'm spending my living. I get to work with people. I have interesting conversations. I believe London cabbies are psychologists on four wheels. So many people say, I'm driving a taxi. I don't have a purpose. Here's a human being who found the purpose and the mastery in his craft. That's a very rich human being. He's going through his days doing this. And when we actually got to the airport, he goes, look what I do. He actually had like Windex, showed it, and then he has a portable shampooer for the rug. I'm just saying, so many of us are looking for these words, meaning and purpose, as if it's this pot of gold on the proverbial end of the rainbow, when the chance to pursue a craft is right in front of us in the job we do. If you're a manager, rather than focusing, resources are more difficult. There's more competition. The economy is in difficult shape. Why not say, how may I serve? How may I develop my people? How may I innovate? And the paradox is, the more you start thinking like that and see your job as a chance for mastery, the more you get promoted. And if you don't get promoted, you can go start your own business.
Okay, you bring up something that I hadn't thought about. First off, it was the quote that we've heard. I'm not sure I think Martin Luther King gets referenced with it, but the old quote, if a man is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep streets even as Michelangelo painted, or Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will pause to say, here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well. Most people have probably heard that, but you have me thinking about it on a different wavelength too. And it came up, it's been years ago. I had a kid. I don't even want to admit this, but I had a kid who was going to get a job doing something. It was just, I've raised them up to be entrepreneurs and do stuff, but they just needed something real quick and they were going to go do that. And they started talking negatively about it. And I said, stop there. If you can't go in there and respect what you're doing, you have no right to do it. You have no right to do it. That's your responsibility. Play with that with me to say, even if the job out there is not something you love and you're doing what it takes to put food on the table, God bless you for doing that. But if you can't go in there and have respect for the product or service that's coming out and the role that you're doing, it feels harsh, but I'm saying that's a lack of responsibility. That's disrespectful. Fair?
Yes, and you've been using this term counterculture. Well, here's something very counterculture. Do the work for the gifts your work introduces to you within yourself, and the human being doing difficult or easy work makes you. Vincent van Gogh only sold 2 pieces of art in his entire lifetime, but he spent his entire lifetime pursuing his artistry. He didn't do it for the applause. He did it for the beauty of pursuing difficult or dangerous or creative things. It's so countercultural. And I'm not saying money's not important. There is an entire section in The Wealth Money Can't Buy on money. I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
But another, like, it's completely countercultural. Like, even if no one in the world, even if no one reads this book, I suffered. You talk about I suffered on this book. This book was so hard to write. I spent a year of my life on it to make the deadlines, to get the work right, not to rest on my laurels, to push myself to the jagged edges of my craft. It took so much out of me. But one of my closest friends said to me, Kevin, you didn't just write the book. This book wrote you.
Beautiful.
So
That's
No, please.
Well, no, it's just beautiful. I'm thinking about the book over my shoulder. What a gift that I got paid some to write it. They published it, but the greatest value of it was what it wrote. I love that quote, what it wrote into me, what I learned and am continuing to learn from it. And I wrote it initially for my kids. And so for that Christmas, I got to give all of my family a copy of the book that I wrote for them. If it doesn't sell any beyond that, what a gift. So I'll say that quote again. What it wrote into you?
She said, you didn't just write the book wrote you.
Okay.
And so this is what The Wealth Money Can't Buy is all about. Self-respect is the new luxury good. Forget watches and handbags. Can you really put a price tag on self-respect? Can you really put a price tag on seeing your work, even if you're a street sweeper? I love that MLK quote. I love it. Can you put a price tag on being a street sweeper and saying, but I'm doing it with pride and with honor? That is worth more money than billions of dollars. There's a lot of billionaires who can't stand themselves. But having a clean conscience, having integrity, having authenticity. I was in Johannesburg. I walked into the men's room. I hear, welcome to my office. I couldn't believe it. I looked over. There was the janitor of the men's room. I go, your office? He goes, welcome to my office. Everything was perfect. The floors were sparkling. I asked him, I interviewed him. It's actually on YouTube. I interviewed him. He said, this isn't a dirty job. He goes, Kevin, get this. I see myself as an ambassador of South Africa. Everyone who comes in here visiting the airport, I'm nice to them. I make them laugh. I say, welcome to my office. They can't believe it. He took such pride in his work. I'm just looking, just to keep it raw and real. Yeah. I'm loving our conversation. The only thing is my battery is low. I don't want to lose you. My battery is low on my phone, but I'm happy to go as long as the battery it keeps us going. You also mentioned words. And in the money section of the book, there's a chapter called Use Wealth Words. Words have power. When someone says, I can't, when someone says, this is difficult, a lot of people, as part of their vocabulary, well, that's impossible. You hear a lot of people swearing these days. Oh, he's doing cool SH.
Yeah.
You see people say, oh, here's another one people use a lot. Yeah, did you see how well he did? It was crazy. No, it's not crazy. It's called practice.
Yeah.
So the words we use plant seeds within our subconscious. And if we see an elite performer and we say, yeah, the way Kobe did that was crazy. The way Federer did that, the way Elon did that, the way Hedy Lamarr did that, that was crazy, man. We're actually planting seeds that it's crazy. We say, oh yeah, that was sick. That was dope. Let's do cool SHI. Those words are powerful. All Martin Luther King Jr., who created a movement, you know what all he had was his words. I have a dream that one day people, regardless of their race, all he used was words. And yet you're still talking about them.
Yeah.
So our words for a beautiful life, our words are important with our family, with our team. We want to inspire a great team or build a culture of elite performance, but especially with ourselves. Like, we talk to ourselves in ways we would never talk to another human being. And we wonder why we don't have the bravery to do what we want to do.
There's more segments of the book here. And folks, go get the book. This is one to study. You even wrote it in the way of I am able to read it almost like a daily devotional. To go through that and to read the segments, to read a segment or to read a segment or two. And as we started off, I am so grateful for how you simplified a lot of these nuggets of life, habits of life, and put story and back to your MVP, meditate and visualize. You gave a lot of visuals. So here's these key areas of life, of wealth, of riches. Money's one of them. Money's just one of them. Here are these other ones. And the depiction that you gave that we can so easily visualize is powerful. I'm honored to bring it to the audience. And I'm mostly honored to have received it myself. And I will be dog-earing continually the book and underlining the book. Thank you for taking it and taking some of the complexity out of it. A lot of the complexity and giving us those visualizations. So as you hear Robin talking about MVP, and I hope you'll pick that up on meditating and visualizing and praying, and a tool for visualizing, he has it in the book. So Robin, it's grateful to sit with you again. It's a joy, and I'm eager for the next book, but right now I'm eager to share this one and to continue spreading the incredible message. Thank you, Robin.
Kevin, I thank you. You're so kind. I wish you and your family all the very best. Thank you for interviewing me again, and thank you for your faith in my work. It really means a lot, and I'm really happy to see you.
It's a great gift. Well, friends, thanks for joining us on this journey. Again, Robin Sharma, the new book is The Wealth Money Can't Buy, The 8 Hidden Habits to Live Your Richest Life. And it's really written. It's not these long chapters. It's written a different way. It's, here's a chapter, but it's all these little vignettes, if you will, little segments that may be 1 page, maybe 2 pages. And they are great for a daily reading, a daily motivation, a daily devotional, really for me, a daily reminder. It's things that, oh my goodness, I've got to come back to that richness.
Yeah.
Well, hey, until next time, I hope this episode helps you drive further and enjoy the ride. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey. I look forward to meeting you in the Drive Tribe community for ongoing discussions about each episode. You can subscribe to the Drive Drop newsletter for weekly updates. Find it all at kevinmiller.co, along with all our social media and video clips. Until next time, I hope this episode helps you drive further and enjoy the ride.